For the first time since the nuclear accident at 3 Mile Island, the government has overhauled its nuclear emergency preparedness program for local communities. Critics say these new guidelines don't address the lessons learned from last year's meltdown in Fukushima, Japan.
They continue to go forward as if nothing has changed.
The new guidelines keep the requirement that communities within 10 miles of a nuclear plant do a full-scale emergency exercise every 2 years. But the government is pushing back the 50-mile planning exercise from every 6 years to once every 8 years. This change has raised the ire of some anti-nuclear activists.
The idea to extend the 50-mile tabletop exercise out to every 8 years instead of every 6 years makes no sense to us, given the need to do more planning, not less.
While the 50-mile exercise will be done less often, the new plan does require that communities practice for the possibility of a terrorist assault on a plant. The government and the nuclear lobby say the addition of this exercise is one reason why the new guidelines are an improvement.
911 taught us that a terrorist attack on U.S. shores is real, and the potential for that is real, and that we, as the rest of the critical infrastructure, has to be prepared to deal with that. We did have emergency preparedness programs in place. We're enhancing those programs now to incorporate hostile action-based drills. So I think that's an improvement.
None of the changes has raised more questions than the requirement for some exercises to be done with the premise that no radiation is released. Federal officials say this scenario makes exercises less predictable. But in his extensive reporting on the new guidelines, Associated Press reporter Jeff Dunn found that many state and local officials question the utility of such an exercise.
No change, it seems, created more concern among local planners around the country than this change where they would sometimes practice without a scenario where you have a radiation release. A lot of the planners said outright that it's a waste of time and money for them to be involved in something like that because in the end there's really nothing for them to do.
The new guidelines were proposed long before the Fukushima accident. KUNIKO TANIOKA, a member of Japanese parliament, said the U.S. should learn from her country's failures. She said communities need to prepare for the worst-case scenario.
Our incident of Fukushima really showed we were so unprepared. We didn't have enough rules. We didn't have enough assets. We didn't have enough trained people.
The government insists the changes were made to add variety to the program, to keep responders on their toes. No U.S. nuclear plant has ever been shut down for deficiencies in its community emergency response plan. David Martin, Associated Press.